I came across this Qlik Community post, which I thought was a pretty interesting challenge. So I wanted to solve it and show how this can be solved if you're facing something similar to this. So this individual is asking you about a handful of things, but the one I'm going to be focusing for this video is how to create a Qlik Sense application that will identify repeat customers. And let me show you what I have created and how you create something like this as well. So the idea here is the user, a business user, would select a year, say 2025, and they would want to see of all the customers that made purchases in 2025, which ones have also made purchases in 2024, for example. And the app will generate this list of customers that are repeat customers, made purchases in 2024 and 2025. And it will not include any customer that made purchases only in 2024 or only in 2025 or in neither of those years. So just that two selected years. That's the idea and the definition of the repeat customer in this case. So additional visualizations I have here is this chart that essentially shows the same information as in this table, plus some additional details on customers not included. So you have customer 1 shows the transactions, and it seems like in 2025 they've made more transactions. Same thing for customer 2, and customer 3 looks like they've only made transactions in 2025. Then also threw in this transaction table that will show the details behind these numbers. So the user will be able to, for example, select customer 1 and see their transactions from 2024 and 2025. And same thing for customer 2. And the table also has this nice visualization, the colors that will grab their attention and clearly show which of the customers are actually not repeat customers. So in this case, customer 3 only has transactions from 2025. So let's go ahead and try to recreate it. Simple app, but quite powerful. Only 2 filters, 2 tables, and 1 chart. Let's see how we can recreate it. By the way, here's the data I'm using. It's a very simple 2-column table that has a handful of rows, 41 rows, 3 customers data, and it only has the customer ID and a transaction date, and that's really all we need for identifying repeat customers. But in reality, in actual data set, it would have additional fields here that would have additional information for transaction, additional transaction details, but we're starting with this. Let's see the script and the data model. So the script is pretty simple. I have this customers table that has a mapping of customer ID to customer name. Then I'm loading this spreadsheet, this one right here, customers visitor log, probably a bad name. Purchase log might have been better, but anyway, that's what's happening here. And I'm creating a transaction ID column that is essentially just a combination of customer number and transaction or trade date. So this one we'll use later on in the front end. And I'm also creating a distinct list of trade dates as well as a trade year in a calendar table. In the back end, in the data model, this is what it looks like. Here's our customer visit log or purchase log. That's the spreadsheet data plus the transaction ID column. Then there's also a calendar table that has the distinct list of trade dates and the trade year, as well as customers table that has the ID to name mapping. So let's get started. On the front end, the only thing I did is I created the master dimensions, so customer name, trade date, trade year, and transaction ID, and I've added a handful of variables that hold the colors that I will be using for this table to highlight the repeat and non-repeat customers. So there's that very basic setup there. Let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create an alternate state. This is something that you would need to create when you want to make this functionality that will enable you to make trade year selections more than once, essentially. Alternate state is quite an advanced topic, but its use case, if you're not familiar with it, is really just to enable this comparison of data across multiple times or multiple dimensions, so being able to compare the same data against itself. Alternate state is where that comes in. Again, complicated topic, but I'll show you how it's being used in this case. So I'll create an alternate state named ALT. So it's simple as that. Alternate state created. Let's go ahead and keep moving and create a filter box. That filter box is going to hold a trade year that users will be able to select, and I'm going to make a few stylistic adjustments here. So I'm going to make the trade year horizontal or in a column or in a grid format. That makes it nice and neat here like this. I like to do that when when a filter pane only has a handful of values. That makes it very nice and easy to select for users. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the sorting order. So I'm going to disable the sort by state, because now it's just like 25, 23, 24. So it does that. It makes sense for, again, filter panes that have a lot of values in them. But in this case, it's only 3. So I'm going to deselect that. So that way it's always going to have this. If a user selects 2025, it's going to stay there, and 2024, it's not going to jump to the beginning of the order list. And I'm going to deselect this alphabetical and make the numeric sort to be descending. There we go. So first filter pane is done. We are 20% complete. Let's make a copy of it and create the comparison trade year. So all I did there is just click or press Control-C, Control-V on my keyboard, and I'm going to change the title of this filter box to be comparison trade year. Now, notice that they both right now select the same year. So if I select 2025, it selects 2025. It's no surprise because it's the same, different filter boxes, but they are on the same year. If I don't want this behavior, or if I want this filter box to be selecting one year and this other filter box to be selecting a different year, we would need to put this a filter box into an alternate state, which can be done by selecting the filter box and going to the appearance section, property section, and selecting an alternate state for this filter box. So I'll go ahead and select this ALT alternate state that I've created earlier, and now if I make a selection here, they're not being reflected here, and so I can make a selection on 2 different boxes. So there we go. That's how that's done. So filter panels are done. Let's create that table now. Next. So for table, I'm going to list a customer name, and I'll give it a title, repeat customers, plain and simple. And let's take a look at the expressions that this table has. It has 2 expressions, and they're not very simple. So you have to kind of maybe pause and think about how to create them, because the purpose of this table is to identify customers that are repeat customers based on user selections in a comparison or in a trade year field. So in this case, which users have made a purchase in 2024 and again in 2025. So to calculate that, I have created an expression like this. So what it's doing is it's saying if the user, or if a customer has a transaction count that is greater than 0, so in other words, the user have made transaction in the default year, so in 2025, right? And the count of transactions for a customer in the alternate state, in the alternate year, is also greater than 1, then show me the count of transaction in the selected, in the let's say trade year. Otherwise it should be 0. So now it's very, again, kind of confusing, but the idea here is if a customer has made purchases in both years, show me the count for the current year, quote unquote current, for the year that was selected in a trade year filter. And so that's how this one gets calculated. Similarly, the other expression is pretty much the same. The only difference is this piece, and this piece has using the alternate, or counting the number of transactions from the alternative, from the comparison year. So let me just get rid of this square brackets. By the way, if you named your state, or if your alternate state has a space in it, you will need to wrap, whenever you're making your expression, wrap your alternate state name in these square brackets. That's how you would just make sure that you won't get any errors when writing this expression. So let's go ahead and let me copy this expression and bring it over to this app here. So in the repeat customers table, add the measure here, and I'll make the first one to be, let's calculate for the 2025 transactions. So these are the 2025 transactions, and this expression is going to be the 2024 transactions in 2024, because comparison year 2024 was selected. So there you go. And as the expression is written, customer 3, remember that one only had transactions in 2025. So this if statement is accurately showing 0 for customer 3 in both years. So again, we only care about the customers, and we want to see the count of transactions for this customer if they made transactions in both years. If they haven't made transactions in both years, if they made no transactions in either of the years, or one but not the other, then we want the expression to return 0 like it's doing right now. Now, what do we do with that? How do we get rid of this customer 3? Because clearly in here it's not a repeat customer. So it's pretty simple. Actually, in the add-on section, you have this include 0 values. If you uncheck it, it disappears. There you go. So this is your list of repeat customers. It's really as simple as that. The one thing I want to show you here, let me actually get the labels, and I'll show you how to create that one. It's for the 2025, it's actually pretty simple. You have your number of purchases and transaction year. There it is. It's gonna get this 2025. But for alternate state, it's a little bit more complicated, the label. It's we can't just use the year because it's not gonna know which year is, or it's going to assume that we're referring to the trade year instead of comparison trade year. So it's going to give us the same label. So for this one, it's going to be, the label expression is going to be slightly different. We're going to use the only function and add this curly brackets braces with ALT with the name of state from which we want to pull the trade year. That's the purpose of this only function here. It's just to specify that we want the trade year, but from the alternate state. And this way we get this number of purchases in 2024. And then of course, if I change that to be 2023, it's going to get updated to 2023, and so on and so forth. So there you go. This one's almost done. If you want totals, notice that 10 plus 8 is not 25 or 27. It is 18. So this is happening because the expression is actually counting the number of transactions for all of the customers, even though we said don't count the ones for, where transactions don't exist in both years, but we have to explicitly tell it how to calculate totals appropriately. So within the expression here, there's a totals function and it's set to auto by default. All you have to do is switch it to sum, so that way it's going to just sum up the values that it sees in the table. And this one, same thing applies here. This number is accurate, but it's not going to be accurate if additional data comes in. So you want to make sure that you switch the totals function to be sum in there as well. So the last thing that I'm going to do with this table is, notice if I go back to this completed application, if I clear the selections, it says please select one trade year and one comparison year to display repeat customers. So we want to have this behavior, because otherwise, if a user makes 2 years selection, for example, that doesn't make sense, or it kind of breaks the definition of a repeat customers in this case. So to handle that, or to clearly communicate to user what they need to do, we want to create this behavior where the charts are not rendering if user hasn't made any selections, or if they made more than 1 year selection. So how do we do that? That is done in the add-ons section of the chart, and I have created this v calculation condition variable. Let's take a look at the expression inside it. And by the way, the reason why I created a variable there is because this table has the calculation condition, and this one, and this one, and they're all the same. So instead of me writing 3 separate calculation conditions, I just created one variable that holds all that calculation condition. And so the v calculation condition is this one. Let's take a glance at it. Very simple. If v trade year selected variable, or the expression behind that variable returns true, then we want the charts to be shown. Otherwise, the expression to turn 0. So let's actually jump to this other, the only other variable here that's being used inside that inside that variable, and some other places as well, I believe, from what I remember, but at least in that variable. So very simple here. So to find if the years have been selected, I'm using the getSelectedCount function, and I'm saying if getSelectedCount of the trade year, so if the trade year number of values have been selected is 1, and the trade year value in the alternate state is also 1, then show the display the charts. So let's go ahead and create this variable in the application that we're building right now here. So create new. Here's the definition. I'll copy it over real quick with selected. Be trade year selected. There it is. I'll skip the definition or the description here. So that one is created, and the other one. Here is the variable name, and here is the definition. So the thing I wanted to draw your attention to is this equal sign. This one must be there. It doesn't have to be there, but what it will do is it's going to evaluate the value. So unlike, notice that the first variable that we've created, the value and the definition is the same. So in other words, if I want to evaluate the definition to produce a value, I'm going to have to put the variable in this $sign parentheses. But this one is already, because I have the equal sign, it evaluates to the value. So it's, well, let me actually just demonstrate. If we get rid of that equal sign, not supposed to be, yeah, there we go. So I guess it was just cached. So without the equal sign, the variable value is not evaluated. So it's not what we want. In this case, it needs to be evaluated. So there we go. Great, so now we have this vCalculated condition variable. So I'm going to go ahead and add it to the this table. So that can be done in the add-ons properties section, and it is simple recalculation condition. Click apply. There it is. So now if I clear the year selections, it shows this vCalculation condition not filled. That's pretty vague. If I was the user, I wouldn't know what the heck is the calculation condition. So let's make let's display add the display message so that the user will know what they need to do to make this chart render. And the message I'll have here is, please select one trade year and one comparison year to display repeat customers. So that one is pretty clear now. There we go. Now it works like a charm. Let's create the transaction table next. That one is also pretty much uses very similar expressions but slightly different. So let's see that. Let's jump into it. So customer name, nothing complicated there other than the background color expression and text color expression. We'll take a look at these in a bit, and notice that this is using the vTrade year selected variable, so that logic, it only colors the values if the trade year is selected. A little bit repetitive, but I suppose, you know, it is helpful. I think the reason why I did it before is if the transaction table was rendering even if no selections were being made. But so feel free to disregard this, and I'm going to actually not include this in the remake of this table, but let's keep going. So repeat customers, this is the one that is interesting. Here the expression, and again it's this one we do need the trade year selected, I believe. So let's take a look at it. So here what I'm doing is I'm creating this using the concat function to create a list of distinct customers that are available in the alternate state based on the selection in a trade year in alternate state. And I'm using the total to just bring me all of the customers that are available. And on top of that, I'm wrapping that function in a wild match to say, you know, show me, does this customer exist in the one that I'm seeing right here? Does it exist in the alternate state? In other words, what did they make purchases in 2024? So that's the you know, and if they have made a purchase, if they exist in both states, then I'm producing the value yes, otherwise no. And if the user hasn't made any it's selections on the trade year, then the comparison is invalid, so I'm producing the value NA. So let's go ahead and get this expression and transfer it over to the transactions table. So again, I'm going to use the table object here, stretch it out, transactions, add the dimension, customer name, add another, let's actually add, I do need trade a year and trade date, I believe, right? What else is there? Yeah, so just the trade year and trade date. This is a measure because it doesn't have that search icon thing. So let's go ahead and get that repeat customer column added as well. So this one's going to be a measure, and here's the expression. So if trade year selected, and again, I think I'm gonna get rid of it, so because it's kind of repetitive. The idea here is that since the calculation condition is not even going to show this table, if the year is not selected, years are not selected, then it doesn't really make sense to run that check within the expression. So let's go ahead and do that here. Now we don't need the totals here, and for the label, I'm going to say repeat customer. So there you have it. Let me rearrange it a little bit, put it there, and now we can see that customer 3 is not a repeat customer, and the other 2 customers are repeat customers. So now let's add the color expression so that it will be a little bit easier to see the different the repeat customers and non-repeat customers. So the color expression, again, is really just this. Let me copy and paste it, and I'll modify it a little bit. So instead of the color code, since we've added the codes in the variables, I'm going to go ahead and add the variable name. So this is going to be v color success, and this is a background. That's the BG. Well, that's what that stands for. And I'm also going to actually no, it should be yes. If it's a repeat customer, it's going to be success, aka green, and otherwise it's going to be v color warning background or yellow, not a repeat customer. Let's go ahead and get that added. It takes a little bit of time, but there you go. It registered, and now we have that text. And we can copy the same expression here and add it for the text color, and really just change the instead of background, the text. There we go. So not a massive change, but it is it is a change. So now we can go ahead and copy the same expression for the column name. If you want to be super fancy, you could add this expression to the variables and have the variable be used here to do the color. So it would be one variable and one color expression that uses references all those variables and calculates the colors for you. So that way you won't have to repeat this same expression in 2 different columns. So there you go, that's done there. The next thing, the last thing that's missing from this table is that transaction ID column. So let's go ahead and get that added. I wanted to say very simple, but it's not very simple. So what's happening here? So what I need, let me show you. So if I click done, if I select a customer right now, like customer 3, for example, oh, it is working. So why did I create it? So let's do 2025, 2024, Add customer 1, customer 2. Ah, I see. Okay, so here's the problem. Notice that as of right now, this list of customers has only the 2025 transactions, which is not what we want. We want both 2025 and in this case 2024 transactions, but 2024 transactions are not shown. So how do we show them in this table? So we essentially need an additional expression, and this is where the transaction ID expression comes in. Here I have really just two expressions that are being calculated. It's either only the transaction ID, so just showing the transaction ID for the current year, or only the transaction ID for the alternate states, with a little caveat here. And this is all it's saying is I just want, when calculating the transaction IDs from the alternate state, make sure to consider the user selections on customer name in the default state. So it's very, very weird looking syntax here, but it's really just saying customer name equals customer name in the default state, and that is communicated to the Qlik Sense in the default state by having this $sign with two vertical dots, or the colon, semicolon. I always forget. So that's what's happening here. And to figure out which expression should be calculated, I'm using the pick function, and with this expression here is going to tell Qlik Sense to either calculate the second expression, this one, or the first one. And the expression here is really simple. It's the if statement that says if the transaction ID is missing for the current year, use the second expression. Otherwise, use the first year expression. So let's get that copied over to the new app. Again, this is one of those a little bit complicated. It's not very straightforward, but the idea there is just to render the values for both years, and there it is. So this would be the transaction ID there, and we don't need a total for this one because this is just transaction ID. And there you have it. So now notice that we have both the 2024 transactions in this case and 2025 transactions for the customers. And I think if I make a selection on the customer name, everything is working. Customer 3 selections were challenging here. But yeah, so there you go. So this is the list of transactions, and if I select a different year, for example, now I have just the 2025 and 2023 transactions, so it's still working. But now customer 1 is the only one that had the only one that is the repeat customer, because that's the only customer that had transactions in both years. So there you go. Last thing that this table needs is the in the add-ons we also want the calculation condition as well as the message. It's going to be the same message as with this customer repeat customers table. So now if user clicks the selections, both of these tables have the same message and they're both hidden from you. Last table, the chart, or yeah, last visualization, the chart, is going to be the bar chart. Dimension wise, it will have the customer name and trade year as the dimension. And let's take a look at the expression that are being used here. So quite simple, so nothing complicated. Notice the exact same additional caveat here that calculates the transaction IDs considering the customer name selections. so that way the expressions, the count, the transaction ID, both in current year and in an alternate state are reflective of selected customer. That's what's happening here. Let's go ahead and get that expression or measure added. And it's simple, you know. The reason I added this one, so if I remove it, I'll have just the 2025 transactions, which is not what we want. We want both years. So simply adding the plus and then the count of the alternate state transactions will get the alternate state to the count from the number of transactions from the alternate state to show up. So it's nothing more complicated than that. Let's number format, make small changes to this chart. What we want to do first here is just as before, add the calculation condition. So we don't want this table or this chart to be displayed if user hasn't made the trade year selections. And the last thing I want to do is, let's do the title, so very basic kind of things there. And let's play around with colors a little bit. So notice that the default colors, I don't know about you, I don't love them too much. So what we can do here, and actually let me disable the line. So this is just personal preference, and I'll show the values and label. But let me show you how to change these colors, because if you try to do it from this panel here, you have very limited color selections. So you can do by color, either a single color or by dimension, or even if you do the you see like use library colors option here, and you have two options, neither of which are great. So if you want to have your custom colors that might look better, what you can do is go to your master items. So I'm using the trade year from the master items dimension, and when you select the trade year and click the edit button, you have this value colors tab, and it allows you to change the colors of the each individual value. So like for 2025, I can make this nice blue, and then 2023 make it this nice orange, and 2024 is going to be this slightly different shade of blue. If I click save, it's updated and now looks a little bit better. So there you go. Legend position, put it in the bottom, and then you can do basic things like, for example, the x-axis. I want to have just the labels, and for y-axis just the title. Don't need the values because the values are on top. And there you go. And the rest I'll leave, I'll let you customize however you want it. But this is it. There's a handful of expressions that were kind of complicated, but essentially they simply involve knowing how to use an alternate state and how to compile an expression to use an alternate state, and do all those other interesting things that allow you to make selections on a customer ID, for example, and both the transactions to show up on for both years, things like that. So this is what I have. This is what you can follow and create yourself if this is something you're looking for. Key takeaway here is use an alternate state and make objects as well as expressions reference different state with those. If you do have this need to consider the customer name selections or some other name selections, this is how it's done using this $, which is a representative of the default state with 2 colons there. And that's really it. So there you have it. I hope it was helpful. Let me know if there's anything else that you want me to take a look at, or I know I didn't go into too much details about alternate states. If this is something that you want to learn, let me know in the comments. I'll be happy to make a video on that topic as well.